Are you planning on buying a Kink Curb BMX bike or thinking about getting a BMX bike for your kid? Today we're going to do an explain and review on the 20-inch Kink Curb BMX bike. Like all my videos, I'm going to tell you everything that bike shops don't tell you, where you can't find it online, and everything about this bike from how it's made, from the front all the way to the back. So let's get to it. Let's talk about some of the parts on this bike and give you a little bit more insight of what you're getting for when you spend your money on this bike. So like we always like to do is we like to start with the grips. These come with Kink Ace grips. These things are pretty dense grip. They kind of have some ribs on it, but most of it's pretty thick and the grip isn't too, I would say like thick here. The tread or the pattern is relatively thick, giving it like a dense feel. These kind of look like hockey puck grip, or maybe a samurai sword or something like that. They're pretty long, so I think you'd enjoy those. They also have a heavy duty bar end. Next is the Mission brake lever. This thing is an alloy brake lever. It has plenty of ways to adjust it, from the barrel adjuster here going to the handlebars. The handlebars are a little bit lower than normal. That I wouldn't say normal, but I would say that most BMXers ride. But for the younger crowd, this would definitely work for them. It is an 8.75 inch tall handlebar, and they are high tensile steel to keep the cost down. But if you want to know how tall the bars are, if you measured from the center of the bar here to the center of the handlebar here, that's where you would get your rise or how tall they are. Going to the cable, it's got a Mission brake cable as well as a Mission alloy stem. This is a top load stem. Top loads are where you put the handlebars on the top of the stem, and front loads are when you put the handlebars on the front, and there's usually a cap on the front with bolts similar to this one for the front load stems. But this one's a top load stem. This is on an 1.1" threadless headset and fork. It's got a 5mm bolt right here with this compression cap. It's got a regular 1.1" threadless headset. The forks are high tensile steel. Has a high tensile steel steer tube. This tube that goes through the frame is called the steer tube. And then you got the fork legs here. These things taper down, and they have a little cutout right here. The reason why they have this is so that you can put a peg on and have plenty of clearance and be able to ride your pegs without having to grind down your peg or anything like that. Going down to the hubs, these are unsealed front hub, but it has a large 17mm axle nut with a big flange on it, so you could run pegs. It also has a little bit longer axle, so that if you're running an aluminum peg, there's going to be enough threads on it and you could run the peg without stripping out the axle. Some of the bikes that don't have BMX in mind will have a short axle, and that will make it more prone to stripping it out or bending your axle. Going up to the spokes, we got stainless steel spokes with brass spoke nipples, a single wall Mission X7 rim. These are 36 hole with a Mission 20 by 2.4 inch wide tire. Notice how wide this thing is. These go up to 60, let me see, 60 psi right here. If you want to know how to find your air pressure, see how it says 60 psi right there. That's going to be your max pressure on these wheels. Going to the frame, you got a high tensile steel frame. This frame comes in at a 20-inch top tube, so the center here to the center here is going to be how you measure it. This one is 20-inch top tube. This is for an introductory rider, so this is usually recommended for shorter people. But if you are taller and this is the only price point that you can buy a bicycle in, definitely buy a bicycle like this, and then as you outgrow and outride it, you're definitely going to want to think about getting a new frame, or maybe buying a bike in the future and upgrading to a longer frame. If you can afford it, if you're taller than that, you may think about buying a longer 21-inch top tube, maybe a 20.75 if you're 6 foot tall. If you're on the taller side, maybe think about buying a higher end bike. maybe a Gap XL or something like that if you need a 21. But if you're in a price point and you just can't afford anything else or justify spending more money on a bike, I don't see anything wrong with buying a bike like this if you're 6 foot tall. When I rode my first BMX bike, it was a Dyno VFR, which came in a 19-inch top tube. Super tall person. I went through all those stages, and now I have a bike shop. I ride all the best bikes. So trying to stop somebody from buying an inexpensive bike, I don't think is a way. I think get on whatever you can. Start from there. It's part of the progression. You'll eventually get to a bigger bike and stuff like that as you progress. If you're a core rider and you're knocking people down and buying this bike saying it's going to fall apart and stuff like that, shame on you. I would say, yes, that's a great direction to go, but hey, buy whatever you can and then work your way up to buying the nice stuff. Everybody doesn't have or doesn't get a Mercedes-Benz for their first car. So the same thing with bikes. If this is where you're at, go with what you got and then work your way up as you go. This bike's pretty sick, just because of mainly the colors and graphics. Got the Kink BMX on here, missing right here, but it's also on the back side here. Got a cool seat tube graphic on here. If you want to know the geometry of the bike and the frame and everything like that, head over to my website, stackbmx.com. Get the head tube, bottom bracket heights, rear end lengths, and everything like that. Now we're going to the seat. You got a Mission, what do they call the combo seat? So you can adjust it, but the angle's relatively nice. Isn't super steep, isn't super flat. Pretty nice angle. So that'll fit your bike. It's also got a Kink alloy seat clamp right here. So you just need a 5mm Allen wrench to tighten that thing up. Going down to the chain, you got a Mission 410 chain. This is your standard BMX chain. And you got a Mission 25 tooth steel sprocket. And we got these Mission Triumph cranks in 170s. So from the center here to the center here is going to be 170 millimeters. 170 is a great length to run. It's the size I run. It's the size that majority of the BMXers ride. Some people go to 165, but 170 is a general rule of thumb, so it's a great place to start. Next, we got the Kink PC pedals. These things are pretty nice because they got knurling here. They got plenty of pins. It's super thick, and it just has a heavy-duty axle, so it's going to be really hard for you to bust these pedals up if you're doing gaps or grinding rails or jumping the gaps at the skate park, whatever you're trying to do. Going to the brakes, we got the Mission brakes. These alloy brakes don't have any bolts here. They use this specific brake cable which splits. If you end up breaking this cable or need to replace it, you might need to buy some pieces here to replace it. But if you need to adjust it, you can back this out, screw this down to keep the tension, and that will allow your brakes to work a little bit better. But in general, these brakes work pretty well. They're easy to adjust. They got the adjusters here. You can totally adjust it very easily. Going to the back wheel, it's got the same size 2.4 tire on the back. It's got the same rim, same spokes. And then back here, it's got the Mission Function cassette rear hub. This is a semi-sealed rear hub with a 9-tooth driver. It's got a 14mm axle, the very large one, and it's got a larger axle net. These axles are designed for running pegs. So if you're grinding skate park, you're going street riding or anything like that, it's got a very large axle, so it's harder for you to bend the axle. Yeah, if you're looking for a bike and this is going to be your first bike, you're not too sure if you want to go with the department store bike because you're not going to be into it. You're not too sure if you want to go with a super high-end bike because you don't want to invest into that if you're just going to stop riding a few months down the road. But if this price point fits you and you feel like, hey, I might want to start BMXing, definitely pick up one of these Kink Curb BMX bikes from stackbmx.com. Try out some BMX, have some fun, and then come back here and comment and let us know what you like about this bike, what you don't like about this bike, what steps you're going to do in the future, and what upgrades you're going to do on this bike to make it your own. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.